In the crystalline observation dome of Station Nexus 7, Ambassador Xereth of the Galactic Concordat watched the sensor displays with all four of her eyes, mandibles clicking in what her human colleagues had learned to recognize as profound confusion. The holographic projections showed thousands of swarm vessels advancing through the Carina sector, consuming everything in their path. But what drew her attention, and that of every other alien diplomat present, was the single human vessel heading to meet them. Ambassador Chen. Xereth turned to her human counterpart. I must ask again, is this some sort of error? Surely the United Earth Federation intends to send more ships. Chen smiled, the expression both diplomatic and somehow amused. He stood with perfect posture in his midnight blue uniform, hands clasped behind his back as he studied the tactical display. No error, Ambassador. The UEA's Prometheus is all we're sending. The gathered diplomats erupted in a cascade of translated protests. The swarm had already destroyed 3 mining colonies and 2 outposts. Their biomechanical ships numbered in the thousands, each one a living weapon evolved for space combat. The combined fleets of 6 alien civilizations had barely slowed their advance. One ship, rumbled Ambassador Korg of the Titanide Collective, his crystalline form refracting light as he shifted in agitation. One ship against thousands. With respect, humanity has finally lost its mind. Chen's smile never wavered. Tell me, Ambassador Korg, what do you know about Earth's honeybees? The non sequitur silenced the chamber. Xereth noticed several diplomats discreetly accessing their neural databases for information about Earth insects. Honeybees, Chen continued, are remarkable creatures. When their hive faces an invasion of wasps, thousands of attackers that could overwhelm them. Sometimes they don't fight back with numbers. Instead, they form a ball around a single wasp, vibrating their wings until the heat they generate literally cooks their enemy. One precise action, applied correctly, can defeat a numerically superior force. This is not an insect fight, Korg protested. This is spatial warfare. The principle remains the same, Chen replied. Humanity has learned through countless conflicts that victory doesn't always require matching force with force. Sometimes, it requires understanding your enemy so completely that you can turn their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. On the tactical display, the Prometheus continued its steady advance. The ship's design was unlike anything the aliens had seen before, sleek and angular, with strange formations along its hull that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. The Prometheus carries humanity's answer to the swarm, Chen explained. Not in weapons or shields, but in understanding. We've spent months studying their attack patterns, their ship designs, their very nature, and we've discovered something fascinating about their biological technology. Xereth felt her secondary heart flutter with sudden understanding. You've found a vulnerability. Better, Chen said. We've found their fundamental truth. The swarm operates as a single organism, every ship connected through quantum biological links. It's their greatest strength, allowing them perfect coordination. But like those wasps facing the bees, they've never considered how that strength could be turned against them. The tactical display suddenly blazed with new information as the Prometheus entered the swarm's sensor range. The alien ships began to react, flowing into attack formations with their characteristic fluid grace. Watch closely, Chen said softly. You're about to see why humanity only needed to send one ship. The first swarm vessels opened fire, their bioplasma weapons lighting up space with artificial auroras. The Prometheus didn't dodge. Instead, its shifting hull patterns began to pulse with impossible complexity. What you're witnessing, Chen explained as the assembled diplomats watched in fascination, is the culmination of Project Symphony. The Prometheus isn't just a ship, it's humanity's first quantum biological conductor. And the swarm is about to provide the orchestra. The battle was about to begin, and as Xereth watched, she realized that perhaps humans weren't as irrational as they sometimes appeared. Perhaps they simply understood a deeper kind of logic, one that turned enemy strengths against themselves, that saw opportunities where others saw only overwhelming odds. The Prometheus sailed into the heart of the swarm, a lone ship carrying humanity's most powerful weapon: understanding. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the helm of the Prometheus, her hands hovering over the quantum interface as she watched the swarm ships surround her vessel. The bridge crew, all 7 of them, worked with practiced precision, each one chosen specifically for this mission. They were humanity's best chance, selected not for their military prowess, but for their unique ability to think differently. Quantum resonance patterns holding steady, reported Dr. Maya Patel, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. The scientist had spent 5 years studying the swarm's biological technology, learning its rhythms and frequencies. Now her theories would be put to the ultimate test. The bridge itself reflected the Prometheus's unique nature. Instead of traditional control stations, the crew worked within a neural interface chamber. Their thoughts and actions merged with the ship's quantum biological systems. The walls pulsed with patterns of light that mimicked the swarm's own internal communications. First wave approaching. Lieutenant James O'Connor announced from the tactical station. Their bioplasma weapons are charging. Energy signatures match our predictions exactly. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Dr. Patel, begin symphony initialization. Lieutenant Ross, prepare to broadcast on all quantum frequencies. The swarm ships opened fire, their attacks coordinated with horrible beauty. But instead of impacting the Prometheus's shields, the energy seemed to flow into the ship's shifting hull patterns, creating cascading waves of light that rippled through space. Symphony Phase 1 active, Maya reported, her voice tight with concentration. The ship is absorbing their attack patterns, learning their frequencies, just like a human immune system learning to recognize an infection. The Prometheus was humanity's greatest gamble. After studying the swarm's destroyed victims, Earth's scientists had made a revolutionary discovery. The swarm's ships weren't just connected. They were parts of a single vast organism, sharing information and energy through quantum biological links. Their strength came from perfect unity, but that unity had a price. They're responding exactly as predicted, Sarah observed. Their attacks are increasing in intensity, trying to overwhelm us with synchronized fire. Lieutenant Ross nodded from his communication station. Their quantum chatter is spiking. They're confused by our resistance. They've never encountered anything that could absorb their attacks like this. The Prometheus shuddered as another wave of bioplasma washed over its hull. But with each attack, the ship's quantum systems grew stronger, more attuned to the swarm's frequencies. Maya's displays showed complex patterns forming and reforming, the ship learning and adapting in real time. Symphony Phase 2 ready, Maya announced. We've mapped their complete quantum communication spectrum. The carrier wave is stable. Sarah took a deep breath. This was the moment everything hinged on. Begin broadcast. All frequencies, full spectrum. Let's show them what happens when you underestimate human ingenuity. The Prometheus's hull began to pulse with new patterns, no longer just absorbing the swarm's attacks but responding to them. The quantum signals they'd mapped weren't just communications. They were the basic instructions that kept the swarm functioning as a single entity. And now humanity had learned to speak their language. Broadcast initiated, Ross confirmed. Quantum resonance spreading through their fleet. Wait. He leaned forward, eyes widening. Captain, they're responding to our signals. Their ships are beginning to synchronize with our patterns instead of their own. Maya's hands flew across her controls. The symphony is working. Their quantum biological networks are accepting our carrier wave as if it were their own. We're becoming part of their system. Sarah watched as the nearest swarm ships began to move erratically, their perfect coordination faltering as the Prometheus inserted itself into their network. Like a virus penetrating a cell, the human ship was hijacking the very connections that made the swarm invincible. They're trying to adapt, O'Connor reported, attempting to alter their quantum frequencies, but we're matching every change. The symphony is learning faster than they can evolve. The bridge crew worked in focused silence as their months of preparation paid off. The Prometheus wasn't fighting the swarm. It was becoming part of them, using their own biological technology against them. Every attempt they made to resist only gave the symphony more information, more patterns to learn and exploit. Multiple ships going dormant, Ross announced. Their quantum links are accepting our override commands. The symphony is spreading through their entire network. Sarah allowed herself to feel a moment of pride. Humanity had looked at an overwhelming enemy and seen not an insurmountable force, but a puzzle to be solved. While other species built bigger fleets and stronger weapons, Earth had created something entirely new. A ship that could turn the swarm's greatest strength into its ultimate vulnerability. The battle wasn't over, but as the Prometheus continued its work, its quantum signals spreading through the enemy fleet like ripples in a pond, the outcome was becoming clear. Sometimes, one ship was more than enough, if it carried the right idea. For the first time in recorded history, a swarm queen manifested on the Prometheus's communication array. The holographic figure towered in the bridge's projection space, a writhing mass of biomechanical tendrils surrounding a vaguely humanoid core. Its voice resonated through quantum frequencies rather than sound waves, translated instantly by the symphony systems. "You dare to corrupt our unity." The Queen's message carried undertones of rage, and more surprisingly, fear. "You inject discord into our perfect harmony." Captain Sarah Chen stood from her command chair, facing the projection with steady resolve. "We offered peace before you began your invasion. You dismissed us as primitive beings, unworthy of consideration. Now you'll understand why that was a mistake." The Queen's form rippled with agitation. "Your single ship cannot hope to." "Look around you," Sarah interrupted, gesturing to Maya's display screens. They showed hundreds of swarm ships now pulsing in sync with the Prometheus's quantum patterns. "We're not fighting you. We're becoming you. And we're doing it better than you ever could." Through the bridge viewport, the space battle had transformed into something entirely different. Swarm ships moved in chaotic patterns, their once perfect coordination shattered as the symphony continued to spread through their network. Some vessels had gone completely dormant, their biological systems accepting the Prometheus's commands as their new baseline. "Dr. Patel," Sarah called. "Status report on symphony penetration." Maya's fingers danced across her holographic controls. 47% of their fleet is now synchronized with our quantum patterns. The rate of conversion is accelerating as each turned ship becomes a new transmission node. Their attempts to isolate infected vessels are actually helping us spread faster. The Queen's projection flickered, its tendrils whipping in apparent distress. "This is impossible. Our biological technology is perfect. Our evolution spans millennia." "That's exactly your weakness," Lieutenant Ross interjected from his station. "You evolved to be perfect at what you do. But humans, we evolved to adapt, to change, to turn disadvantages into strengths. We looked at your biological technology and saw not just a weapon, but a whole new way of thinking." Sarah watched as another wave of swarm ships fell under the symphony's influence. The Prometheus's quantum signals had become a virus in the swarm's system, but one that didn't destroy. It converted. Each turned ship became a new broadcaster, spreading the human patterns exponentially through the enemy fleet. "Your choice is simple," Sarah addressed the Queen. "You can withdraw what remains of your independent fleet, or you can watch as we turn every single one of your ships into an extension of human ingenuity. We don't need to destroy you to defeat you." The Queen's form began to destabilize, its quantum signatures becoming erratic. "You would enslave us, turn us into your weapons." "No," Sarah replied firmly. "We're offering you evolution. The symphony doesn't just control, it communicates. Your ships under our influence aren't slaves. They're experiencing true cooperation for the first time. Ask them yourself." At Sarah's nod, Ross opened a channel to the converted ships. Their quantum signatures flooded the communication array, not with the rigid mechanical precision of the swarm, but with something new, something that combined swarm unity with human creativity. "Impossible," the Queen whispered, but her projection showed signs of uncertainty as she processed the signals from her turnships. Symphony penetration at 63%, Maya reported. Quantum conversion rate still accelerating. Estimate total fleet synchronization in 17 minutes at current progression. Sarah stepped closer to the Queen's projection. This is humanity's true strength. We don't just adapt to face challenges. We transform them into opportunities. Your biological technology was perfect, yes, but perfect things can't evolve. They can't grow. They can't imagine new possibilities. The battle around them had almost ceased. The remaining independent swarm ships held position, their weapons powered down as they watched their converted brethren operating under the Symphony's influence. The Prometheus pulsed at the center of it all, a conductor leading an ever-growing orchestra of transformed ships. Final warning, Sarah announced. Withdraw your remaining forces now, or become part of humanity's first galactic symphony. Either way, your invasion ends today. The Queen's projection stabilized, its writhing tendrils slowing as it processed this ultimatum. Around them, more swarm ships surrendered to the Symphony's influence, their quantum signatures harmonizing with the Prometheus's broadcast. The tide hadn't just turned, it had transformed into something entirely new. The battle for the galaxy wouldn't be won with weapons or warriors, but with understanding and innovation. Humanity had proven that sometimes the most powerful force wasn't the ability to destroy, but the ability to change, to adapt, and to transform enemies into allies. And it had only taken one ship to prove it. The Galactic Concordat's emergency session was unlike anything in its 1,000-year history. Representatives from 200 species crowded the vast chamber, their attention fixed on the central hologram showing the aftermath of humanity's encounter with the swarm. Ambassador Chen stood calmly at the podium, surrounded by a sea of alien faces expressing everything from awe to fear. The Swarm Queen's decision to withdraw her remaining independent ships was only the beginning, Chen explained, manipulating the hologram to show the transformed swarm vessels now orbiting Earth's colonial worlds. What we've created isn't just a victory, it's a completely new paradigm for interstellar cooperation. The converted ships pulsed with patterns that combined swarm biological technology with human innovation. They moved with fluid grace, but now their action showed evidence of individual initiative combined with collective coordination, something previously thought impossible. High Counselor Xirith leaned forward in her crystalline chair. You've done more than defeat them, haven't you? You've fundamentally changed what the swarm is. Precisely, Chen nodded. The Symphony Project wasn't designed to destroy or dominate. It was created to demonstrate a better way of existence. The converted ships aren't under our control. They're part of a new collaborative network that combines swarm unity with human creativity. The chamber erupted in overlapping questions and exclamations. Ambassador Korg's crystalline form vibrated with intensity as he spoke. But what prevents these transformed ships from becoming a new threat? How can you be certain they won't turn against us? Dr. Maya Patel stepped forward from behind Chen. She'd been brought directly from the Prometheus to explain the technical aspects of their achievement. Because we didn't just change their communication patterns, we showed them a new way of thinking. The Symphony creates true cooperation, not forced compliance. Each ship retains individual consciousness while participating in a voluntary collective. The hologram shifted to show neural patterns from the converted ships. Where the original swarm consciousness had been rigid and hierarchical, the new patterns showed complex webs of interaction, constant innovation, and spontaneous problem-solving. They're learning, Maya continued, not just following orders or evolving along predetermined paths, but actually creating new ideas. The first transformed ship came up with a more efficient way to modulate quantum frequencies within hours of conversion. They're combining swarm biological technology with human adaptability in ways we never imagined. A representative from the Mechanoid Collective raised their sensor array. You speak of cooperation, yet you transformed their entire fleet without consent. How is this not simply a more sophisticated form of conquest? Because we gave them a choice, Chen replied. Even now, any converted ship can choose to leave the symphony, but none have. Instead, they're choosing to stay, to explore this new way of existing. The Queen's remaining independent ships are watching, learning, and some are voluntarily joining the symphony. The hologram updated again, showing the Prometheus surrounded by its transformed fleet. The ships moved in patterns that were neither purely swarm nor traditionally human, but something entirely new. A dance of collective purpose and individual initiative. What humanity has created, Chen continued, is not a weapon or a means of control. We've created a bridge between different ways of thinking. The symphony proves that seemingly incompatible systems can not only coexist, but combine to create something greater than either could achieve alone. The implications weren't lost on the assembled representatives. For millennia, the galaxy had been divided between different philosophies of existence: collective versus individual, biological versus mechanical, hierarchical versus democratic. Humanity had just demonstrated a way to transcend these divisions. The Prometheus carries more than just the symphony technology, Chen concluded. It carries proof that the greatest power in the universe isn't force or numbers or even technology. It's the ability to imagine new possibilities and the courage to pursue them. We sent one ship against the swarm, not because we were overconfident, but because we understood something fundamental. True change doesn't require overwhelming force. It requires the right idea at the right moment. As the chamber buzzed with discussion, the hologram showed more ships approaching the symphony fleet, not just former swarm vessels, but ships from other species, drawn by the possibility of something new. The ripples of humanity's innovation were spreading far beyond the original conflict, promising to transform not just how the galaxy fought wars, but how its inhabitants understood themselves and each other. The age of forcing choices between individual freedom and collective strength was ending. Humanity had shown there was another way, a symphony of possibilities that no one had imagined until a single ship dared to try something new. 3 months after the swarm encounter, Captain Sarah Chen stood in her favorite observation lounge aboard Station Nexus 7, watching the transformed fleet perform maneuvers that defied traditional physics. The Prometheus floated among them, its quantum patterns now part of a greater symphony that stretched across light years of space. Dr. Maya Patel joined her at the window, holding a datapad filled with the latest analysis of the symphony network. "You know what amazes me most?" she said, watching a group of ships execute a perfectly coordinated yet uniquely creative formation. "They're teaching us now. The innovations flowing back from the converted ships have advanced our understanding of quantum biology by decades. That was always the point, wasn't it?" Sarah smiled. "Not to conquer or control, but to learn and grow together." Though I doubt anyone expected quite this level of success. The door slid open, admitting Ambassador Chen, and surprisingly, the Swarm Queen herself. The Queen had chosen to maintain her holographic form even when visiting diplomatic stations, but her appearance had changed subtly. The chaotic tendrils now moved with purposeful grace, and her core form showed signs of individual expression rather than pure biological efficiency. "Captain Chen." The Queen's quantum-translated voice held notes of warmth that would have been impossible 3 months ago. "Your ship's latest symphony modifications have produced fascinating results. The voluntary conversion rate among my former fleet has reached 89%. Sarah nodded respectfully. "And the remaining 11%? "Continue to observe and consider," the Queen replied. "They remain connected to me, but I no longer command them. Like myself, they are learning to balance unity with independence. Your symphony has given us something we never knew we lacked: the ability to choose our own path while remaining part of the whole." Maya's datapad chimed with new information. The latest quantum scans show increasing complexity in the symphony network. It's not just growing larger, it's growing more sophisticated. Each new ship that joins brings unique perspectives and capabilities. Through the window, they watched as a group of ships demonstrated a new formation. Former swarm vessels moved in perfect coordination with ships from 3 other species that had joined the symphony, creating patterns that served both practical and aesthetic purposes. It was a dance of technology and biology, of individual expression and collective harmony. The Galactic Concordat has received 17 applications for symphony integration from different species, Ambassador Chen reported. Everyone wants to understand how humans achieved this transformation. They expect complex technology or secret weapons, but they struggle to grasp the simple truth. Which is? The Queen asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. That humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our strategies, Sarah replied. It's our ability to see possibilities where others see only problems. We looked at the swarm and didn't see an enemy to be destroyed, but a potential ally trapped in patterns of thinking that had become limitations. Outside, the Prometheus began a new symphony broadcast, its quantum patterns rippling through space. The assembled ships responded, each adding its own variations to the harmony while maintaining the core resonance that bound them together. It was neither chaos nor rigid order, but a perfect balance between the two. My species spent millennia perfecting our unity, the Queen observed. We thought ourselves the pinnacle of evolution. Yet in less than a year, humanity showed us that true perfection lies not in achieving an ideal state, but in the endless capacity for growth and change. Ambassador Chen gestured to the display showing Symphony Network statistics. The network grows more stable, even as it becomes more diverse. Every new perspective, every different way of thinking, makes it stronger. It's the ultimate proof of humanity's core belief that our differences can be our greatest strength when we learn to truly work together. And it all started with one ship, Maya added, smiling at her captain. One crew willing to try something that everyone else thought was impossible. Sarah watched as a newly converted ship joined the formation outside, its quantum patterns adjusting to harmonize with the symphony while maintaining its unique signature. We never needed a fleet, she said quietly. We just needed to remember what humanity does best, imagine a better way, and have the courage to make it real. The observation lounge fell silent as they watched the ships dance through space, their movements a testament to what was possible when understanding replaced fear and cooperation replaced conquest. The symphony continued to grow, each new addition making it richer and more complex, proving that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe wasn't the ability to destroy or dominate, but the wisdom to transform and unite. One ship had changed everything, not through force or superior firepower, but by carrying the simple truth that the greatest victories don't come from overwhelming power, but from understanding so deep it transforms enemies into allies and challenges into opportunities. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if they too were part of the symphony now, witnesses to the beginning of something entirely new in the galaxy's long history. Something that had started with a single human ship carrying humanity's greatest gift, the ability to imagine a better way.